400 verses, root text. Chapter 10. 226. When the inner self is not female, male or neuter. It is only out of ignorance that you think your own self male. 227. When all the elements are not male, female or neuter. How is that which depends on them male, female or neuter? 228. Your self is not myself, thus there is no such self, since it is not ascertained. Does the conception not arise in relation to impermanent things?
229. From one rebirth to another. The person changes like the body. It is illogical for yours to be separate from the body and permanent. 230. Intangible things do not produce so-called motivity. Thus the life force is not agent of the body's movements. 231. Why teach nonviolence and wonder about conditions for a permanent self? A diamond never has to be protected against woodworm. 232. If your self is permanent because of remembering other lives, how can your body be impermanent when you see a scar previously formed?
233. If the self when possessing that which has mind is a knower, by that same argument, that which has mind would be mindless and the person permanent. 234. A life force which has pleasure and so forth appears as varied as pleasure and so forth. Thus like pleasure it is not suitable as something permanent. 235. If consciousness is permanent, an agent is superfluous. If fire is permanent, fuel is unnecessary. 236. A substantial entity, unlike an action, does not alter until it disintegrates. Thus it is improper to claim the person exists but consciousness does not.
237. At times one sees potential consciousness. At others consciousness itself. Because of being like molten iron, the person undergoes change. 238. Merely, a small part with mind is conscious. But the person is as vast as space. Therefore it would seem as though its nature is not to be conscious. 239. If the self is in everyone, then why does another not think of this one as I? It is unacceptable to say that. It is obscured by itself. 240. There is no difference between the insane and those for whom the attributes are the creator, but are never conscious. 241. What is more illogical than that the attributes should always know how to construct homes and so forth, but not know how to experience them?
242. The active is not permanent. The ubiquitous is actionless. The actionless is like the non-existent. Why do you not prefer selflessness? 243. Some see it as ubiquitous, and for some, the person is the mere size of the body. Some see it as a mere particle. The wise see it as non-existent. 244. How can what is permanent be harmed? Or the unharmed be liberated? Liberation is irrelevant for one whose self is permanent. 245. If the self exists, it is inappropriate to think there is no self, and false to claim one attains nirvana through certain knowledge of reality. 246. If it exists at liberation, it should not be non-existent before. It is explained that what is seen without anything is its nature.
247. If the impermanent discontinues, how could there be grass at present? If, indeed, this were true, no one would have ignorance either. 248. Even if the self exists, form is seen to arise from other causes, to continue by virtue of others, and to disintegrate through others. 249. Just as the sprout, which is a product, is produced from a product, the seed, similarly all that is impermanent comes from the impermanent. 250.
since functional things arise, there is no discontinuation. And because they cease, there is no permanence.